Okay, well, welcome to the podcast, Oscar. How are you doing?
Very well, Alex and Craig. Thank you very much for having me, and it's always a privilege to impart some knowledge over my 57 years of competing and racing, and basically making what, again, it's always in your own mind, the success of life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you with us this evening, Oscar. And if you'd just like to share you've just shared quite an important milestone with us just before we came on here, Oscar. Can you just share that with the guys listening?
Well, today, exactly 1 year ago, on the 25th of November, I was diagnosed with. Well, actually, I wasn't at that stage. I was just had a huge tumor in my spine. And they realized, well, this is a secondary tumor, and we got to find out what the primary tumor is and what the primary cancer is. We know it's cancer, and you've got 4 to 6 months to live because it's already spread. It's all over the place. So you're in trouble. And that's 1 year ago, and it's also 1 year before. I mean, one day before my wife's 60th birthday, which I'd organized a fancy. Going out to a nice restaurant in a fancy hotel in Porto, Portugal. And you can imagine she was fairly upset, which I couldn't understand. And she said, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't sleep. I can't do anything. I can't have my 60th. And lo and behold, I got my way. And I said, listen, I'm still alive. I could have had a heart attack and you wouldn't know anything. And here I am. I'm alive, and let's live every day as we should. And that's a big story in life. And basically, I said, okay, we're going to have that 60th birthday party, and we did have it, and it went off very well. And you forget these bad things in life sooner than you think.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's just straight away a good example of your strong mindset there, shall we say? So yeah, Oscar, whereabouts are you in the world at the minute then?
Right at the moment, I'm in Durban, South Africa, it's basically summer here, and it's humid and hot, and a bit of wind and things like that. And I've just flown back from Portugal, where I was on Saturday, where I had some good news about they can look after me at a much better rate than anywhere else in the world. So that's also good news. And now tomorrow is my wife's birthday, so a lot of her family and friends are in Durban, South Africa, which is on the east coast of South Africa, and it's very warm. It's like Bali or one of those subtropical, tropical places. Yeah, so it's not bad.
Yeah, we might have to get a flight across and spend it with your wife, if that's okay, because it's very cold where we are.
I know, it's very cold.
Yeah, we were up at, what time is it now? 7, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We were up at 5:30 this morning on a run, and it was like 4 degrees or something. It was.
No way, that's too cold. That's too cold for me. Yeah, it was about 27 most of the day.
Oh, well, that's the life. That.
Oh, you've got it. You've got it good there, mate.
Yeah.
So obviously we'll delve in deeper to the the unfortunate story of the Big C later on, Oscar. But let's, if we can, mate, if we can go back to the start of your story, Oscar, and just take us through kind of your childhood and your upbringing, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I say, I started. I mean, I wasn't from a wealthy family. My father was a national kayaker from Germany and came to South Africa after the war. And thank goodness he only changed his passport after we were born. Otherwise, we couldn't have got German passports and traveled around the world, because he gave up his German passport to get a South African passport to go to the Olympics. So obviously he was a very famous, and he was the sort of the father of kayaking and surfski paddling around South Africa. And then I just took it on. I mean, so I was much bigger than most boys at my age, and so my first claim to fame at age 14, I was in the national team for surf lifesaving, lifeguarding, kayaking. So I was a bit of a freak in my age. So and that's how long I've been competing, since 14 years old. And that was my first trip to Huntington Beach, California. Was my first in my international team, where I was such a young guy competing, and that's when I started my whole career. And then from there, I also in lifeguarding, there's a thing called an Ironman, which is the original Ironman, not the Ironman which is the cycling. I did that as well, but the original Ironman that comes out of Australia is swimming, board paddling. It's like on your knees or lying down, board paddling, and surfski paddling and running. And I was the first person in the world to win the junior and the senior. So at 15, I beat all the juniors and beat all the seniors. And funny enough, I did that in March. And another guy called Grant Kenny, and you can Google him. Grant Kenny is a very famous guy in Australia. He did it 1 month later. So my whole life was about winning this junior and senior Ironman. Then he won it a year later. And funny enough, when I won it, it wasn't like it was a big thing in South Africa, and it probably made the newspapers. But when Grant Kenny did it, it made South African TV, and we only had one channel in those days. Oh. And he made South African TV, and I didn't make it, and I'd done it first.
Why did he make it and you not make it onto the TV then?
It's just one of those things. Australia, surf lifesaving in Australia is one of the biggest sports. In fact, I think cricket's first and surf lifesaving is second, and then rugby and rugby league and Australian football is behind surf lifesaving. So it's a very big thing, and obviously they picked up the story. South Africa's a very water sport orientated country, and funny enough, so he's about 3 months younger than me, and that was the start of me trying to become an international sportsman as opposed to just racing against in South Africa, although they would never let it happen because of apartheid. And you guys are probably a bit young to know that I couldn't compete for the national team to compete anywhere in the world. They would never let us compete. So in the prime of my time, I wasn't allowed to compete. In fact, when I went over to compete against Grant Kenny in 1983, I was competing for Germany, and then I raced the Molokai Channel, which is between two islands of Molokai and Oahu. It's 52 kilometers, 32 miles across there. And I knew Grant Kenny was going to race because they tried to make us compete. And because of apartheid, they said, no way, you can't compete to South Africa. No Australia can come into South Africa, and you can't go to Australia. So in this race from Molokai to Oahu, between these two islands, he had won it 4 years in a row. So I had this opportunity. He said, no, he's definitely going to come to this race. And that's when I raced him. And that's the first time I actually met him. I didn't even know him. And that race was 1983. And I managed to beat him by 15 minutes. So it wasn't even close. I beat him by miles. Even it's 3.5 hours, but I mean, I still beat him by 15 minutes. So it wasn't close to see who was the best lifeguard or surf lifesaving person in the world. So that's where it started. And obviously in between, I was doing a lot of competing in water polo. I was in the national junior team for water polo. I was playing tennis. I'm one of those people who just love competing. And my whole thing is to compete, whether it's against my Garmin GPS trying to get to Windermere, or whether it's swimming or squash or tennis, or just because I'm just a competitive person in life. You know, I like to do the best I can and compete. So that's how it started. And obviously I became a bit of a South African household legend because I kept on doing it. So I raced that race in 1983, and I won my 12th one in 2012. 30 years later, 29 years later, still beating the top guys in the world at 49 years old. So I've had a long span. So somebody said, hey, you better get this recipe. There's not many people that have become world champions at 49. I mean, a lot of boxers do it and they don't get close, but they get to like 47, 45. And I did it at 49 against the guy who came second was a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, a silver medalist. So he came second, 15 seconds behind me in a time of 3 hours, 23 minutes, which is funny enough, is the same time I did in 1983. So at 49, I was still going the same speed as...
So you've not lost a second over 29 years.
Wow.
No. So exactly. So in between that, because our sport is not a serious, there's no money. I mean, Becken makes in 1 second what I earn in a year from my sport. It's more for passion and doing well, as opposed to the money side of it. You know, it obviously is. I'm involved in the side of manufacturing kayaks in Portugal and things like that. But it's purely, it just takes really mind over matter to win these races. You're not going to get rich from it. So, and again, I had a long story of all the businesses I had to start and make money to support my hobby or interest or whatever you like, and my whole family. So that's why it's a sort of a balanced life I've had over these 58 years, coming for 58 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That is like just the whole 49 years old, and then the first one. How old were you when you won the first one?
20.
Wow. So you started competing at 15, won your first one at 20, won the last one at 49. Wow. So in terms of like training wise, at 15 years old, like is your parents, like, is your dad there? Is he going, right, come on, that's
a good question. I mean, interesting. Yeah, my father is from German descent, and he's one of those people that says, listen, no, I'll help you whatever you want to get good, but whenever you do anything, you better do it the best of your ability. Don't jerk this. So I used to train at like early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was out he used to say, okay, we're going to be at the swimming pool at 6. At 5:45, the car's leaving, whether you're in it or not. If you don't get in it, he goes and he does it himself and he doesn't worry you. So that was the whole thing I learned right at the beginning. You have to really concentrate on achieving. The only way you're going to achieve is number one, the most important thing is not building the foundation, but laying out the plans. So he said, listen, you better plan, because this is not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen if you don't write it down and say, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. And again, with German precision, he forced that sort of way of thinking that if you're going to do it, might as well do it properly. It probably takes the same amount of time, but if you don't do it properly, then you have to do it again, and then it's going to take twice the time. So that he definitely instilled in me. And again, my training regime was fairly tough. I mean, I think of some days where I'd wake up at 3:30 in the morning, train for 4 or 5 hours, go to work, lunchtime do a session, go back to work, and then evening do a session, and then finish 10 o'clock, and then and do a bit of waiting at a restaurant, and then cycle home 25 kilometers in the middle of the night, and then start the day again. You know, so there's no easy way of doing it. You know, but there's always the clever way.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that strikes me there, Oscar, like you said, there wasn't a great, say, monetary, reward for doing it. So it's got to come from, where does the drive come from for you then?
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, because when I first won, like junior and senior Ironman, when people come to congratulate, I said, that's what I expected, it was like, and then the one guy, I never forget, his name was Teddy Bear Patton. He said, listen, Oscar, when somebody congratulates you, you must say thank you. And I understand, I'm 15 years old, I just won the biggest thing in the world, and the people are congratulating, I think, what for? I thought this is part of the deal. You must win everything you do, So, so that was like a sort of, maybe not really a turning point, but it was something that my whole life was about winning, and how to win, and what it took to win. And that's in every aspect of my life, in everything. Family, health, competing, anything was about winning. As always, so there was something that sparked it in those few early years that maybe like so competitive. Some people get like very cross. How can you be so competitive all the time? I said, well, it's just my nature. And it rubs off, Some people can take it and they use it to inspire themselves and give themselves hope. And that's something that I've seen in my cancer fight, where I've had a lot of publicity about it and things like that. A lot of people reach out and say, hey, you've given us so much hope. You make life easier for us, because you're doing it and you're sharing it.
Yeah.
Wow. So in terms of like, so you've, I can't get over the 15-year-old thing. That's brilliant. So in terms of childhood and growing up, what, like the sacrifices you must have made, like friendships, just like, is it just literally, I'm going solo, or were there friends there helping you along the way, or?
No, I was very much one of those people that were really concentrating, really focused. So I didn't drink or anything till I was 25. And again, I was in team sports playing in water polo where everybody had drinks and everything. I said, no, I'm not drinking. No. So those kind of things, I made sacrifices in that way. I was still fairly friendly person and always helped people out and did things, but I was super competitive. And I think most of the sacrifices were, I wouldn't be going out at night to go and have a party or anything like that. I would be training because the next day I'm going to wake up at 4:30 and do a 4-hour session. You know? So you miss out on those things, but you can catch up very fast. And as my wife said, I didn't drink for the first up till 25, but I'm catching up very fast now.
You're making up for them lost years, are you?
Absolutely. I probably haven't taken those lost years.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So yeah, we just kind of want to finish like your story then, Oscar. So I think we got up to where you'd won the last world title. Could you tell us about your experience with the Olympic team?
Oh yeah, and that was also fun. I mean, because what happened? So in fact, let's just take one step before the Olympics. So understand that in 1983, I won my first World Championship title, and I won 7 in a row. So I beat that guy Grant, and he came second every time.
Nice.
And he gave up, and then other people tried to compete against
you, didn't I bet he loved you.
Exactly. So what happened was that after 7 years, listen, what happened is that I was banned again. Because this time they were serious. No, you're living in South Africa, you're training in South Africa, you cannot race in this race. We've got the Olympics in America, you can't train. So in 1990, they banned me after 7 years in a row. I won that race, World Championships. They banned me and they said, no, you're not allowed to compete because you're living in South Africa, you're training in South Africa, you can't do it. We're not allowing you in this race. And then again, and then this is sort of a mind over matter thing, I said, okay, instead of sobbing and carrying on and complaining and carrying on, I took up golf.
Right.
So I went from 24 to a scratch in 1 year. At the end of the year, I was playing golf with one of the richest men in the world, this guy named Graham Beck, and you can go and look it up. He's got a great champagne or MCC champagne in South Africa. And he said, listen, Oscar, in 3 days' time, if you can break par at a golf club called Clavelli, I'll pay for you, your wife, Claire, and your son, Luke, to go to David Ledbetter for a whole year, all expenses paid. And believe me, he's worth billions, and he could afford it. And his mother died the day before, and all bets were off. So he said, no, I'm not doing it. So instead of being a pro golfer, I'm still paddling. And so that happened, you know. So that was 1990. And then when Nelson Mandela was released, so the apartheid thing started falling down. So we had the opportunity to race in the Olympics. So obviously, being very well known in South Africa, I was sort of the South African Olympic captain of the whole team, and made the whole team. Yeah, and then made the speeches and chatted to Nelson Mandela and all those kind of things, and it was really good. But at the end of the day, to train for the Olympics in a year and a half, where I was doing long distance races, wasn't great. So, in fact, funny enough, the guy who won the 1,000-meter K1, a guy called Clint Robinson, an 18-year-old who won the 1,000-meter gold medal at Barcelona, where I was at. I raced him 6 months later, and I beat him.
Right.
And I said, what the hell? My coaches aren't that good. I'd rather stick to my coaching, and I'm going to coach the way I think should be coached. Yeah. And funny enough, that guy, Clint Robinson, at 18 in 1992, raced against me, and I beat him about 30 minutes in the Molokai. He came second in 2012 to me. Wow. And after winning Olympic golds, couple Olympic silvers. So it's a very small world. But the bottom line is I never let anything faze me. So when I was thrown out of the world title, I went back and won a lot more races, and eventually won my 12th world title at age 49, beating Clint Robinson that killed me in 1992. And again, it was fun. I mean, there was Carl Lewis era, the Ben Johnson era, the Boris Becker era. So you met all the guys, and everybody was down to earth and on the same level as you. Even though I was in a Mickey Mouse sport, and they were in a really good sports. So where they make money, where I was doing it for passion and for the love, and sort of, and funny enough, one of the things that I really do it is that I enjoy life a lot. And if you hear about it, I enjoy going out, having drinks, having fun, and the reason why I train so hard is that I can have more fun if I train hard and work on my athletic ability. It just gives me more time to have fun and enjoy it. And to the winning, there's always the fun part as well. And again, I understand you don't win all the time. I never won all the time, but won a lot. So that's. And Olympics was a rude awakening where I was in the K4, the 4-man kayak, and we ended up getting blown out in the semi-finals. And you think, this is not right. I don't like not making the final of an event. So that was a rude awakening, but it was good to meet Nelson Mandela at the time and all these famous sportsmen. But I don't really like going to a race to come second or third or fourth or have no chance.
No. Did you? So obviously you've gone through a couple of setbacks in that kind of section of your life there, Oscar. Can you just kind of explain the mindset you took on to get over the other side of the setbacks, basically?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing about setbacks, and you're going to have lots of them in your life. Everybody's going to have lots of them. No matter who you are, you can be Beckham, you can be the Queen. I don't care who you are. You're going to have setbacks, and it's how you manage them is the most important thing. So overcoming the odds is something that you're going to have to do. Everybody's going to do in a small way, Yeah. So to give you an example, first time, as I say, they said no, you can't compete. So I said, okay, I'm going to take up another sport, and took up golf. And then I never forget, I was racing in Spain in Asturias province, where quite a few English people go. There's a big festival. The biggest kayak race in the world is in River de Sella. And the one year we arrived, we get to the airport, and this is the South African national team. We get to the airport, we come into a race for the Sella descent, and we're going to win this race. And we're going fastest thing, racing with my brother. And they say, no, but you're a week late. They got the dates wrong. So we missed the whole race. And we raced, and we arrived on the Monday. The race was on the Saturday, and then it was a whole week of racing, and we won every single race. So we would have won that race. And again, so I put that behind me. We went back a year later in 1986. I went back and raced that race, the biggest race in the world, where when you win the race, your name gets carved into the bridge at the finishing of the finish post. And my father won it in 1969 with his partner, and my brother and I won it in 1986. So 85, we missed the race, but I came back in 1986 and listen, I'm not going to lose this race again. So again, so it's what you do, and the whole thing is in life. I think the most important thing is don't worry about things that you can't change. Don't worry about it. In fact, my whole saying is, try and worry, go into the toilet and worry and see what in the world changes. Nothing. Worrying doesn't help anybody. Either do it or don't worry about it. Worrying is the stupidest word in the world, because worry doesn't achieve anything. Just go into the toilet and worry and see if anything changes. You get out and still the toilet doesn't work, or still you're having problems with finances, and still these things happen. I mean, it happens to me. I mean, even though I've been successful in business, I went through a stage where I couldn't pay my daughter's private school fees. So they said, no, you can't go to school. I said, okay, so what? I'm one of those people, I'll always pay, but if you don't want my daughter to go to school, but I couldn't afford to pay the fees, she stayed at home. And I just made a joke about it. They don't want my money. They don't think I'm going to pay. It's fine, stay at home. Yeah. Of course. You learn to live with these things. At the end of the day, I paid my money, and she's all fine. She went to the nice private school and carried on. But again, you've got to just, if there's nothing you can do about it. So I didn't have the money, but I made a plan, and within 3 or 4 days had the money, and as I promised, and did it, But don't think that any of these problems in your life are just going to go away. You've got to do something about it. You yourself. And don't just wait for it to like manifest and fester, because that's what happens. Problems just get worse and worse and worse. Take them on. My wife gets so mad. I said, listen, won't you do this for me? I'll do it just now. Don't feel. I said, do it right now, because if you do it right now, it's done and it's out of your world, and it's done, and you don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah. Taking massive action, I think. That's what it's down to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, going back to your last win, 49 years old, right? How has training changed from your first win? Like, I'm talking, because you can't be doing the same. Can't be the same.
You're not doing the same. You have to be clever. You have to be a lot smarter, because let me tell you, I'm not as strong and as fast and as sort of endurance-wise as a 25-year-old when you're 49.
No.
You're going to use this and a lot less of this, and that's what it takes, So, and I've noticed that in life is that if you take the right tuition and the right coaching, you can achieve a lot more than people that just hammer on the same line. And I always talk about this, is that people train and they get fitter, and then they get to a plateau, and you see lots of people, and you guys are running and things like that, and they stay like this, they never improve. Why don't they improve? Because they don't improve their technique. So I've worked out that I spend much more time than when I was young and so strong that I used to just arrive in a race and I said, I'm going to win by I don't know how far. You guys are all racing for second place, because I was so much physically fitter, but I wasn't smarter. No. And what happens is you get smarter. And there's an old saying, practice makes, and you'll say it, perfect. Yeah. Which is wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Practice makes permanent. So if you're not practicing the right thing all the time, you're going to go backwards. And I've got lots of people. They practice all the time and they do everything, and they get they get fitter, but they get slower because their technique gets worse.
Yeah.
And it's about life, is you got to sort of recalibrate yourself all the time and say, make sure I'm doing it the right way. Yeah. And that's what I've done a lot of. So in a normal day in training when I was at 23, every training session was a race, and I made sure I won every single training session. I beat everybody. But at age 49, let me tell you, your body can't take the punishment. So then you go two things. Number one, you concentrate on technique. So you make your technique so good that you can beat the people with skill and not with force. Yeah. And that's number one. And then a lot of training in those days, as I said, were flat out. And now I use the MAF method, full mathotone method, which is basically always at subpar. So you're always training at subpar. It's called MAF. It stands for maximum aerobic function, which is basically, to give your listeners an idea, is 180 minus your age. And you just do it like that all the time. And at my age, and remember that at 49 I won, but at 55 I won a race in Guadeloupe, 55, and the next guy was 25. At 55. So I was still winning, and I'm still winning. And again, it's because of this and not because of the power. And it's again, so basically you recalibrate your life. And you've all heard the saying, older people are smarter. It's just because they've learned better ways of doing things, smarter ways of doing things. And that's what I did in sport. And I've done that in every sport, is worked out how to, and that's what I teach people as well, to say, listen, don't spend, perfect example, people could just go running and they run 10K, they think they're doing well, but I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to do that. That's not right. Let's run and let's concentrate. Oh, how am I stepping on my foot? Am I pronating and supinating? Am I doing this? Let's do 5 days a week of that, and let's see how we can improve. But people just go out there to sort of just show how macho they are and how good they are, where I just changed. And I said, no, and I can spend 7 days a week just doing technique. And come the race, my technique's so engraved that I can go so fast because of good technique and using my brain power as opposed to my brawn power.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Just taking on the advice as you're saying it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking that I'm one of those guys that's just going out and running aimless 10Ks at the minute. But no, yeah, it's amazing advice, Oscar, for people that are listening. So would you say that you're as hungry now as you were back when you first started competing?
Yeah, I think nothing's actually changed, except now I'm sort of, the hunger has changed to fighting this incurable cancer, and it's a very expensive cancer. To give you an example, the maintenance pool that I have to go will cost €5,000 to €5,000 or £5,000 a month to keep me alive. Yeah. So, and again, most medical aids don't even cover it, and most medical insurance don't cover it. So I'm putting a lot of effort into raising funds for South Africa. There's a lot of people that haven't got the money to actually afford this, so they basically roll over and die. So, and it is, in a way, I've had a lot of support from people around the world supporting my pledge and saying, okay, this is a good thing that you made it public. But it's terrible. I get the emails where the guy says, well, I've got to buy the medicine or food. What do? I can't afford both. And you just know they're just in a battle and they're going nowhere. So I've started a multiple myeloma foundation in South Africa in a non-profit organization to help raise funds for these things. And again, it's my mission to become one of the best at doing it and raising money for other people. And again, my next ambition, because I can't go so fast, my heart rate is fairly high. I plan to break the world 24-hour kayaking record, which stands now, it was just broken last week, at 224 kilometers in 24 hours in the ocean. And I plan to do that, so I plan to do that soon, as I just build up, soon make it quite, I'd like to do 300 kilometers in 24 hours. In fact, one of my goals is to paddle from Porto to Lisbon, which is 300 kilometers. So in 24 hours, non-stop.
Well, do you know what, Oscar? If there's one guy that's going to do that, I think it's going to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit tough. I mean, let me tell you, this cancer wasn't tough. When I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and I was in COVID hospital, so you see nobody, see no family, and it's a terrible place to be. I hate. There's my wife in the background sitting down.
Oh, Mrs. Chalupsky.
Claire, yeah.
Hi, Claire.
She thinks she's hiding, and she's right in the view. You know, it doesn't matter. Nobody's worried. Yeah, so I mean, and it's amazing. So where I was when I came out of the hospital, I could only walk 800 meters. That was the maximum. That 800 meters took me ages, and then it took me a day to recover, sleeping and resting to recover. I was sweating after 800 meters walking. Yeah. So I progressed a long way in that time, and a year later to overcome it. And I think I'm slowly improving, but again, this is a disease that's not curable. So I'm going to go into heavy regime again. In fact, yesterday I had a bone marrow biopsy, which is a case is a hand drill with a 3mm drill bit, and they go into your bone and they go through. And the guy said, "Jeez, your bones are like stone," because you get given this hardening, and you must see the guy sweating and pouring, trying to get into the middle of the bone to take the bone marrow out, so they can do a bone marrow biopsy. So I don't know the results as yet, but I'm feeling good. I'm slowly getting stronger and stronger, and I'm trying to make my life as normal as possible. And I think that's another thing in life, is to try and make your life as normal. There's going to be lots of times when, and especially with COVID, and you guys are semi in lockdown, it's going to be tough. But there's always some person that's doing it tougher than you. Just remember that.
Oh yeah. I mean, the bone marrow thing, I've just seen on your Twitter now. I followed you on Twitter, and I've just seen that you'd had it done, and I was just like, wow. Yeah, I mean, and you come on here and you know, I'm complaining this morning about getting up at 5:30, and you're saying, and you're going, well, I'm fighting. Like, most people will just give up. Most people will go, well, it's incurable, I'm giving up. And you're there a year later fighting.
Yeah,
getting stronger, and I'm about to do 300k on a kayak, and it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? Maybe I need to start getting up more and doing more. I think, because this is sometimes you get a life-changing moment, and I think at 30 years old now, it's a life-changing moment for me. So, you know, as much as people are listening, I'm also listening. So it's nice to be able to just learn from somebody going through something much, much worse than what normal people are going through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, and that's my whole legacy. I've spent my whole life teaching and coaching people, and I hope it. And again, obviously, you get some success stories where I've reached out to a lot of people, coach pros, whether it's in health, fitness, whatever, to try and show them it can be done and how it's done. And I think that's the legacy that you want to leave, is that you don't do it just for yourself. You help all your fellow people and drag them along, and hopefully drag them higher than lower, you know.
Yeah. Pull people up. That's what it's all about. So is legacy important to you, Oscar?
Actually, not really, because I'm one of the worst people. I don't even remember what wins and what losses. I'm just one of those people that go through life. And now I'm writing a book with a famous author, Graham Spence, who actually lives in the north of London, and that's my next sort of thing. I'm writing this book just to, and again, my book, I want to make it a life story, but helping people. So every chapter will be some life lesson that I can impart on people to make them better.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in the first person, which is not normal for a book, and teaching people what I've learned in the way, how to handle adversity and how to handle roadblocks and potholes in the road. So that's one of the things. And what I have started, and again, procrastination is a hard thing, but again, also having lots of doing lots of things. I'm also going to do public speaking on sort of how to accomplish that, what I've achieved in my life in such a long time. I mean, not many people have had a lifespan of nearly 40 years at the top of your sport. I mean, in fact, there's not many in the world, and I'm there to help and teach and I'm going through a company called Missing Link, we sort of devising a talk that's going to help them not only in business, in private, and health, and family, and all those things that make your life a whole, you know. So that's what I'm working on.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask Oscar, like, what has having an incurable illness taught you about life in general, would you say?
You know, it's one of those things, rather put it out your mind and go through life full out, enjoy it, make sure that you live every moment of your life, because as I say, you never know what it is. And I think having this incurable disease at the moment, my objective and my goal is to live long enough for them to find a cure. So that's the first thing. So I've got to just make sure I'm strong, and I've got to watch out for COVID, and I've got to sort of be healthy and keep training just about every day. I still train and things like that to keep myself ready so that there's going to be a cure. And again, something, as I said before, is that you can only do things that you can change. The rest you can't change. So I can't change this. The only way I'm going to change them finding this cure is by helping them fund it. So that's what I'm going to do, and put my name to multiple myeloma funding, so that I can hopefully help in the way of monetary or being a guinea pig to see how we can find a cure. So just, you know, as I say, it's funny. My wife always says, "Oh, I can't believe you've got this incurable cancer," but I don't feel like I'm living with a person with incurable cancer. And that's the positive thing. You don't want to pull other people down, and you don't want to make your problems theirs, you know. Rather just be positive and carry on. And I think that's what I'm trying to portray in my Twitter feeds and my Facebook and Instagram. I'm always trying to make sure that people are upbeat of what I had, as opposed to be feeling sorry for me.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Just normally I've got so much to ask and so many questions. I'm a little bit lost for words, to be honest. It's brilliant, honestly. It is.
It's a bit of a one-off.
So in terms of like living with incurable cancer, obviously, so it's been, like you say, it's been a year to this day. you've got to have bad days. You've got to have bad days. You wake up one day and think, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit sluggish today, or is it just literally wake up and I'm going for it, I'm grinding,
Yeah, that's a question. It's funny enough, a lot of people say, oh no, you don't worry. You watch, he will go down and he's going to be bad and he's going to be feeling sorry for himself. No, I just don't believe in that. I mean, and Claire can have any bad days, Claire? No bad days.
No.
Yeah.
No bad days. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if you just wake up, it's a good day. When you've got an incurable cancer and you just wake up, it's a good day. So off you go. And then let me tell you, I've had days when I wake up and think, geez, what have they done to me? Because I'm like so buggered. And here's a guy that can normally wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go and run 30 Ks, I think paddle 60, and then cycle 100 and swim 10 Ks, and then that's the last day for me. And then suddenly you get out of bed and think, gee, what have they done to me? I'm so weak, so useless. But I haven't had any, I've had bad days, but it didn't affect me. I mean, when I was in hospital, I mean, when they gave me 5 days of chemo in a row before they did my bone marrow transplant, I was completely dead. Like, I mean, you struggle to get out of bed. You got no chance, and you just say, well, this is what they said is going to happen, and you've got to push through. So bad days, I don't believe bad days. I mean, if you wake up and even you've got a headache or something, you say, okay, well, I'll work it out. Because I don't even believe in headaches, because I think that's all in the mind. Mind. So I don't believe in headaches. So I don't. If I get a headache, I just say, no, wait, how can you have a headache? It's all in the mind. And I make sure all headaches disappear. That's why I never have any hangovers, which is probably a problem.
Wow.
I wish we could have that superpower as well.
I mean, no, you've got the power. Everybody's got the power. I think everybody's got the power. It's just how you sort of channel it and focus it to achieve things, and I think everybody's got it. I mean, I'm not superhuman. I'm just a normal person that's gone through life normally and just had this passion and obsession. I think that's something is that if you want to do something, you got to be obsessed about it, and then you'll achieve it. So it's maybe that's one of those things that make us different.
Yeah. Definitely, that's something that's kind of a recurring thing when we speak to people. It's often they are obsessed and they've got just an uncomparable passion for it. Yeah, and that's what drives you through anything, and that's what gets you through the setbacks as well. So that's brilliant. Oscar, I was just going to say, because you mentioned you were writing a book as well. So that's obviously everything we kind of stand for. Doing this podcast, it's all about listening to people's journeys and the advice you can give to people from your own personal experiences. So how do you actually learn yourself, Oscar? What kind of process do you take on to learn yourself? Do you read books?
And again, that's a good question. I mean, the bottom line is that you learn from experience yourself, but you can always learn from other people. And it's funny enough, one of these about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in Israel, in the Sea of Galilee. When they parted the sea, and I've been paddling for 45 years, kayaking, and this woman said, no, I hold my legs over the side together. And she explained why it was. And she'd been paddling for 2 years. And from that day, I learned from a 65-year-old person that had no idea about kayaking. That's the way I'm going to teach people from that day. So I learned from somebody that had been kayaking for maybe 1 or 2 years. And that's what you've got to do. So obviously I read a lot, and I love biographies, and I love only true stories. I only love true movies. I don't just read for the sake of reading. So
I'm the same. It's got to be real life. It's I'm not bothered about these dragons and stuff like that.
Oh no, I'm not a sci-fi, whatever those people are. I'm definitely not one of those. And I really concentrate on
Oh, we can see you clearer now.
The last one out. Okay. I obviously had too much rosé. Doing a lot of things I shouldn't be doing.
Or as a glass clear.
How clear? I ask you, how was the glass? Yeah. So I think you're never too old to learn, and even at my age now, if somebody tells me something, I've got good filters now, because there's a lot of nonsense out there that is rubbish, and there's some really good stuff. So, and my passion now lately has been on the last 10 or 12 years is health and what to eat and what not to eat and things like that. And I've learned from the best of the best.
Yeah.
And again, you have to learn what is good and what is bad, and you've got to learn from people, and you've got to have a good filter, because there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't true and has not backed by science, where I like to do science. And I've done all it. I mean, you can imagine competing for 40 years at the top. You've gone through every single kind of faddish diets that are out there to make you go faster. And now it's slowly coming to roost what you should be eating and how you should be eating. And the funny thing is, I've just read a book called Tripping Over the Truth. I mean, just in the title, you realize that this is something unbelievable, that it's a lot of, makes you actually sick, that the big pharma and big medical are there not to save you, they're there to make money.
Yeah.
And it's so bad, so tripping over the truth is a lot about cancer, and about that cancer is a metabolic disease. So if you eat correctly, most cancers, and which this is actually pisses me off, is that my cancer is not one of the cancers where you can actually eat and destroy it. Right. Most cancers, 95% of cancers, if you eat the correct way and basically starve the cancer of sugars and things like that, you can cure cancer. Mine's not one of those ones, but I still do a ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting just to keep my body strong, so I can still compete and not compete, but still train and do everything and be and up for the challenge. You've got to have sort of reserves and things like that.
Have you stuck to that kind of diet for quite a while, Oscar, or have you?
No, about 12 or 13 years I've been doing that. Yeah, so that's also helps you. To give example, in the Molokai, when I'm racing for 32 miles or 52 kilometers, I will basically have a good meal in the evening, nothing in the morning, nothing during the race, no water, nothing at 35, 40 degrees C. And you don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. Your body's such a good thing. I want my whole body to be making me go fast. So I don't want to be half of my body trying to digest the food that I just eaten. I want all my muscles to be going one way, and that's fast, with no hindrances of trying to metabolize water and all these things. So I mean, obviously I was sponsored by every single energy drink and every single energy food in my day, and then eventually realized this is not really helping. Psychosomatic, maybe you think you're helping, and then you start drinking just water, and that's also been a big game changer in my life, of not hitting the carbs and not eating 5 times a day and all that nonsense, which makes food companies do well, but it doesn't make you very well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually just started doing the intermittent fasting myself for the last month or so, and I think it's been brilliant, to be fair. I've got a lot more energy, I've found, and like you say, your body's not digesting food as such, is it? So
it's not working 24 hours a day. You just give it a break for 2 or 3 days, and let me tell you feel much better. And the funny thing is that when you do fasting, first thing it does is takes your subcutaneous fat, which is the fat around your stomach. It just eats that first, and then it eats all the visceral fat, which is all fat around your organs that you have, and then it also regenerates old cells that eats those. So it's fantastic. I mean, your body is when they say it's a temple, it actually really is a temple. The less you feed it, you don't need. I mean, it's funny enough, the longest fast with water is 385 days by a Scottish guy in 1972. 385 days, water only.
Wow.
He lost 180 pounds in the process, but he was actually fine.
Yeah.
Because most people, no matter if you've got 12% body fat, you can fast for 6 weeks with no food, only water, and then maybe some minerals. You need some minerals.
Wow. Right.
Yeah.
I bet he was one hungry guy. I bet he was hungry at the end of that.
No, but what happens? So your brain actually realizes that, oh, I'm not going to get eaten. I'm not getting any food, and then you actually don't get hungry. What happens is then it just works and eats its own body, which has got plenty of reserves, and then you, like when you fast, you'll ask people, the first 2 days are difficult because you're used to being eating all the time. Third day is easier. When guys are doing 20, 30-day fasts, they're never hungry. You're actually not even hungry.
Yeah.
And you've got so much time because suddenly you're not wasting time washing dishes, buying, and things like that. You're like, oh, and you've got so much energy.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
The truth.
Well, I'm sure people can take a lot from that information, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oscar, we're coming up to the end there, mate, and it's been an absolute pleasure. We've got a couple more questions, and then we'll let you get off and have a glass of rosé with your wife.
Yeah.
So yeah, Oscar, can you give us a fact about you that most people won't know, if you can?
What can I say? I'm very expressive, and I tell everybody everything, so I don't keep many secrets. And I'm one of those people that, if you ask me, even I'm going to win a race, and you ask me, what is the best route, and I've done the route 1,000 times, I'm going to give you the correct answer. So that's something that no other sports will do. And my wife actually gets cross because she says, how can you tell them all those secrets? No secrets. I give it to her. I'm going to beat them no matter what.
Yeah.
She's laughing. She's laughing in the background, saying, "Oh yeah." How can you? And then, and I'll teach anybody. I'll teach my opposition what to do. I'll teach them. My wife says I'll teach them even if they don't ask.
Yeah. You just want to pass that knowledge on. There's nothing wrong with that.
So another little one we've got here is if you could invite any person, dead or alive, to be in this chat right now with us, who would you choose and why?
Sure, that's a hard one out of left field. I mean, it's something that it's funny that I never have sort of idolized that many people, but I always like people that have achieved things that seem to be impossible and have done at the old age. So if I had to, just because I haven't spoken to Tiger Woods, it'd be quite fun to see how his brain would work, because I love golf.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ernie Els is a good friend anyway, but I mean, it's just nice to see how somebody can come back after 13 years not winning a major, then winning it. So something like that's fantastic. I mean, and then seeing a person like, it's funny enough, strange, like a guy like Mike Tyson, who was like me, probably a junior whiz, which I was, and then lose it, basically, and why did he lose it? And such, and again, I knew where he came from and how well he did and things like that, but he was a phenomenal person, then lost it, so, and again, all these people, I've done exactly opposite. I've just kept going and just kept on winning and winning for 40 years. So, and it's like, why didn't they get it right? And it like frustrates me to see that such good talents can happen to them, So that's maybe something I'd like to, and again, people like Steve Jobs, I've got a great appreciation of his business acumen and what he did. And again, he did also fall from grace and then came back and then did well, So he'd be somebody as well. So it's difficult to just like narrow it down to one person,
Yeah, you can have them three in there. That's fine. So we've got Steve Jobs, Tiger Woods, and Mike Tyson. That's a good trio. Yeah, I like that. Right, Oscar. Just to finish on then, to anyone that's kind of at the start of their journey or thinking about, you know, really taking control of their own life, what would be your kind of final piece of advice for them, someone getting started?
I think the most important thing is that, and they say, and again, I'm just repeating what other people say, but you've actually got to do it, is to write down your goals and then work out how you're going to achieve them, and then always be punctual. And remember, the most important thing in life is preparation. So make sure you've done the right preparation so that you don't never disappoint yourself without the preparation. Like you can imagine, I'm with equipment, and if my rudder breaks, I'm not going to win anything. So you got to make sure that everything in life is prepared so that you know that there's nothing going to fail because you've tested everything. Of course, that's still going to happen. Some person's going to run over you with a bus that went through a red robot or things like that. These things are going to happen, but prepare yourself as best as possible all the time. And if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Don't cut corners. Try and do it every time 100%. Rather do it once perfectly than 5 times half-heartedly. It's going to take you a lot more time.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, thanks for that, Oscar.
Yeah.
I think that comes to an end. Really, can you just tell us quickly where people can connect with you, Oscar?
Well, I mean, the nice thing about my name, Oscar, if you just type Oscar and then start trying to spell my surname Chalupsky on any media, it's always I don't have to put 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. It's Oscar Chalupsky, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on Google. Even Google have got it there, so they've got everything. And I'm always there to help. And as you know, Alex, I'm fairly fast at replying to everybody.
Yeah, you are, mate. Yeah, I was quite humbled at how quickly you come back to us. I thought, wow, yeah, can't wait to chat with this dude.
Yeah, thank you guys. I mean, thanks for reaching out to me, and I hope I can help you. And again, my door is always open. My email is there, and whatever you need, I'm there.
Yeah,
brilliant, mate.
Awesome.
We're all rooting for you this end, Oscar, and I'm sure people listening are as well. And you are an inspiration, mate. And we're sending you strength and love from the UK as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and don't get too cold over there.
Too late for that.
You're going through winter, we're going through summer.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, guys, and really appreciate chatting to you.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Take care, my friend. Thank you.
Cheers.